recording of this. So thanks so much for coming and being excited to learn a little bit more about this unique GPA. So we'll take a look at some examples in this presentation, and I'll talk a lot about this special GPA that you might be interested in computing for your student, though it will probably be down the road. So I'm going to actually turn my camera off just because I don't want our internet speed to be too slow, and it can kind of slow things down a little bit, but I'll turn it back on when we start taking some questions, okay, at the end. And let's get going here. So the CSUs, the Cal State Universities, and the University of California, they actually have a specific GPA that they use to determine eligibility into their schools. And this GPA, we like to emphasize, is not the same GPA that a student would see on their Mountain House High School transcript. On their high school transcript, they see a cumulative GPA, which means all the classes that they've taken, including non-college prep classes, like things like PE, for example. And they also see all grade level courses from 9th through 12th once they finish at Mountain House High School. So these GPAs are different. We're going to look specifically at how they're different now. So the CSU and UC GPA is actually made up of a very specific set of grades that occur during the summer after 9th grade. So maybe your student took something for advancement in the summer after 9th grade, that course would count. And then it goes all the way through the summer after 11th grade. But the courses taken in that 9th grade time don't count towards this GPA. They do count, though, as far as when a student applies to those schools, they're still going to record those grades, but the GPA that those colleges look at is only made up out of those specific 9th grade summer through 11th grade summer timeline. So they also only look at college prep courses, and in a couple slides, you'll see an example of a transcript. And next to all of our college prep courses, you'll see either a small little P or a P+, and that would indicate that a course is college prep. We also list this information on our course list that we have on our website. Everything that is college prep is labeled as college prep on the website course list. And another thing that's unique about this GPA is that it does have a maximum number of weight points that a student can bring with them to the GPA. And they actually even go as specific to tell you that only a certain number of AP or honors courses can count towards this GPA in 10th grade, and the remaining can count from 11th grade. So we actually encounter this a lot. We have students that do decide to take way more than 2 honors and AP courses in their 10th grade, or way more than 4 honors and AP courses in 11th grade. So that would mean in this case that their high school transcript weighted GPA will be a lot higher, because at the high school transcript level, there's no maximum. But at the college level, because there's that maximum, there will be only so much weight point that they can assign to that GPA. Now, there's a couple of courses that students will take that at the high school level, you'll notice they have a P+ to indicate that they are college prep and honors at the high school, but they actually aren't honors at the UC or CSU levels. Most of the time, our students take biology or honors biology in 9th grade, so that class doesn't really impact most students unless they took it a little later in high school. But we do have quite a few 10th graders that take a Math 2 honors course or online Math 2 honors course during their 10th grade. That course would not count towards an honors point. And same thing with the English 9 honors and the online English 9 honors, or it's also known as the online English 9 accelerated course. Those ones, again, probably won't impact a student. Most students aren't taking English 9 at any other grade level than 9th, but for whatever reason, if they had to and they took it in 10th grade, maybe to make something up, then that course would not be honors towards this GPA. Okay. So we did have quite a few students, if they were here with us in the spring of 2020, so last spring, they may have earned credit or CR marks or no credit in place of an F during the spring of 2020. And that would mean in that case, if a student has those marks, you actually don't need to count them in this calculation. And we'll look at how the calculation works in just a minute, but you don't need to count them. Even the NC mark. So in this case, the kind of equivalent of an F does not count against them in this GPA. They don't earn credit in the course that they got an NC or no credit mark, so they may need to retake the class just so they have a requirement met, but they don't have to count it against themselves in a GPA, okay? And if they take something that was honors or AP and they got a credit mark for it, they still can count that honor point. So I think Ms. Myers is also taking some questions if you have them in the chat, and I'll try to get back to the questions at the end of the presentation if anything goes unanswered. So we also get a lot of questions about calculating community college classes, since we have students that are in our early college program and students that are just kind of supplementing on their own and taking community college courses, especially during that 10th and 11th grade window. So the community college classes, we also weight them on your high school transcript, and they are considered weighted by the CSU and UC system. So when we post a college course to a high school transcript, a student will actually earn 10 credits in that course, because at the college level, if the class is worth 3 units, that's equivalent to 10 credits or a year-long course at the high school. So in the example I have listed there, like let's say your student took US history, or it's called History 17A at Delta College, and they earned a B. We would post that B to their transcript. It would be worth 10 credits, and they could count that B twice, and they would also give themselves 2 honors points. This is where a student can really get over that 8-point maximum, because if they take quite a few community college courses, it's really quick to reach and exceed that 8-point maximum that the UC and CSU give you. Okay, so normally when I do this in person, I have my parents have an example transcript with them. We will look at an example transcript at the end, and then we'll give you these steps again. But basically, we're going to go through a website who helped us calculate the actual GPA once we count up the grades on a transcript. So here's my sample. Some key things that you should notice in a transcript are the years that a course was taken or when a student was at Mountain House High School. My sample is a little old. So this is a student who started with us in 2013 and graduated in 2017. So it still applies, though there's one difference for this student that actually won't impact any current or future students, and we'll get to that in a second. But I also want to make sure you see how the semesters are broken down. In 9th grade, you'll see a 9th grade fall, that's semester 1. You'll see a grade 9 spring, that's semester 2. But we're not going to look at those when we're starting to compute this GPA. We're going to start with grade 10 fall, because the student didn't take anything in the summer after 9th grade. Otherwise, there would be another box that said, you know, grade 9 summer, and that would be where we would start if they did that. And we're going to compute the grades and count them up. So first, I think just for organizational purposes, I tell my students just cross off that 9th grade box so you don't accidentally start adding in those into your calculation. And then you're also going to go through and you're going to cross off anything that's non-college prep. So let's go back one. You'll notice that there's no P in this side far column next to this PE Course 2 class. So that's why that class is getting crossed off. Then we're going to do that again for anything else that they may have. So this student also took a teaching assistant course up here, doesn't have a P next to it, so we're going to cross that one off. And we're going to cross it off again where it shows up in the fall of 11th grade, and it shows up again in the spring of 11th grade. So we're just going to cross those out so that we don't accidentally count them in our totals, because non-college prep courses do not count. So I've highlighted in red the boxes that we're going to be looking at, and then I highlighted in yellow the grades that we're going to be looking at. And those crossed off non-college prep courses are also visible there with the blue lines through them. And this part's relatively simple. You're just going to count the number of A's and B's and C's and D's and F's. The one thing that I do get questions about generally is there any difference with A pluses, A minuses? At the time that this student was at our high school, we did use pluses and minuses in that 14-15 year, and now we don't anymore, because actually there isn't a difference for CSU and UC. They don't look at an A plus any differently than they look at an A minus. It's just the letter that you're counting. So we're going to count the student's A's, and they have 11. It's highlighted in blue. And then we're going to count the student's B's, and they have 8 B's. And then we're going to count their C's. So they have 3 C's, and we are going to make sure we record that they don't have any D's and they don't have any F's, because we're going to have to include zeros for those. And now we do have to compute their honors points. And this is where this example is a little old. It doesn't apply to your student because there's no students that we have right now that would have taken these classes in the 18-19 year while in 10th and 11th grade. But our courses for the PLTW biomed sequence and engineering sequence were previously counted as honors courses at the high school only, but now they're actually counted as honors courses at both the high school level and the UC and CSU level. So you don't have to worry about when your student took it. But in this example, a student did take a biomed course during a year prior to 18-19. So we don't get to give them honors points for that. And that will just be unique to this sample. Excuse me. So we're going to total up their honors points now, and you'll see the pluses next to those P's. We'll count those up. Now, this student took far more than 4 in their 10th grade year. However, the maximum that the UC will let you take with you for honors points from 10th grade is 4. And this is good information for my parents out there that have some younger students that are making some choices for their 10th grade year. Maybe they're choosing to take a similar schedule to this one, where they're in 5, maybe 6 honors or AP course combinations. And something to think about is they don't get to take all these weight points with them to their college or their CSU and UC GPA. However, there are some other colleges, right? Not everything is a CSU, not everything is a UC. Some students might be looking at some private schools or schools outside of the state of California. And those schools won't follow this specific outline of GPA calculation. They may not have any kind of maximum point system at all. So if they're doing it and they're doing more, they're more or less doing it for colleges outside of those systems, because we know that there's a maximum for the UCs and CSUs. So we're not going to be able to add anything more from the spring of 10th grade towards that honors calculation. And then we're also going to look here, and we found that they had 4 coming from the fall, 4 more points. There's from the semester long AP or honors courses that they took. Again, they took a lot more than they can actually put towards this, because now they've gotten to the 8 maximum that they can bring towards that GPA. And just because I don't know if everybody was in here at the moment, but in the case of this student, we didn't count this biomed, but it actually didn't matter for them anyway because they were maxed out. Okay, so to put all that information into the calculator that we use, we just plugged in the numbers from the previous slide: 11 A's, 8 B's, 3 C's, 0 D's, 0 F's, and the maximum 8 honors points. And then we actually get this different GPA. So we now see that this student's CSU and UC GPA is a 3.73, which is different from what we see in their high school transcript. So on their high school transcript, we saw that their cumulative weighted GPA was a 4.07 because, again, there was no maximum weight points and they had a lot more than the maximum that the UC and CSU allow. So of course that GPA for the high school is going to be higher, and their weighted or their unweighted cumulative GPA was a 3.32. There's no unweighted calculation for the CSU and UC GPA, but it does land, generally speaking, for students in between that cumulative high school weighted and that cumulative unweighted high school GPA. The CSU tends to fall kind of right in the middle, which is what happened for this example as well. So they're at that 3.73 mark. And there really is a big difference when we're talking about whether or not a college is the right fit for a student, or if it's a safety school or a reach school for them. There's a big difference between thinking you have a 4.07 and having a 3.73. So, I think it's an important thing for students to calculate. However, they would have to either do some predicted grades if they're like currently in 11th grade, so they have most of the grades that they're going to look for in this calculation, or they'll have to wait until the end of their 11th grade when they actually have all of the grades that they need to make this calculation. So that's why we generally, we talk to our students about this a little bit later into high school, since they don't have a way to know what this GPA is going to be until they finish 11th grade. So in order for a student to meet the requirements to be eligible for UC, they have to have that GPA be a 3.0 or better. And that's the minimum. The UC system is highly competitive. So meeting just the minimum doesn't necessarily mean acceptance. It does mean eligibility, okay? And the CSU this year is very special for the class of 2021. And we actually don't know if these changes will impact future students or not. The reason that there have been changes is because our class of 2021 has a lot less access to the SAT or the ACT. And that really impacts CSU eligibility because their eligibility centered basically on this GPA and SAT or ACT scores prior to this year. So they shifted things a little bit for the class of 2021. They used to admit students with a 2.0 or better as long as they had a matching sliding scale SAT or ACT score to make them eligible between a 2.0 and a 2.99 GPA. But now, the class of 2021, they are eligible with a 2.5 CSU GPA or better, and they may be eligible at a 2.0 to 2.49, but the campuses themselves will have specific supplemental factors that they'll be looking at and asking for from any student that has a GPA in that range. So it's because it's campus specific, we don't have a lot of information about what those supplemental factors will be. And I don't know for sure if this is going to be the same, because if the SAT and ACT become more accessible again, the CSU may decide it's still going to be part of their eligibility, and they could continue with their previous eligibility outlines. So we have another example. If you're interested, I have it available for you. You can go to this tiny URL and you'll pull up this exact sample. And then I'm going to actually look at this sample with you guys and count it out and then compute it again, just to give you guys another kind of run through of how this would work if you wanted to do this with your own students' transcript. So we'll just mark down really quick while we have this up that their GPA with us down here at the bottom, the weighted is that 3.81 and the unweighted was at 3.54. And feel free to go to the sample and work with us on this. I do have it up as well. So this is the same sample we were just looking at. And we're going to count out those A's. I can't do all the fun crossing out and animations on this because it's just kind of up with me in my regular Adobe Reader. But we're not going to look at the 9th grade at all. And we're also going to, in our minds, cross off any of these non-college prep classes. So we're crossing off that PE course up here and over here. And then we're checking to see, was there anything more through 11th grade? Nope, they didn't take any non-college prep courses in 11th grade. And then we're going to kind of, in our minds, cross off this 12th grade. We're not going to go into 12th grade for this GPA. So we're going to count the A's in the college prep courses. We'll start here with photography. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip that one because that one's crossed off. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we end up with 13 A's. And we're going to do the same for the B's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we have 10 B's. And we're going to check to see, oh, we do have 1 C here. So we're going to include that 1 C and do a quick scan. This student did not earn any D's or F's. So we're going to have zeros here. And now we need to look at their honors points. This one, again, is a little tricky because they actually are an older student as well for my sample. So they took that biomed class in 17-18. You can see it here. And that was a year where it was honors at the high school, but not at the UC level. So we aren't going to be able to count that honors point for the biomed in their junior year because of when their junior year was. So we're going to count their honors points that we can assign for UC and CSU. So we're going to get this one here for English 10 honors. 1, 2, not the biomed, 3, 4. So they actually have 4 honors points. And then if we put all that information into our calculator, this website is also linked to on the presentation. You can plug it in and you can find out. So we had 13 A's, we had 10 B's, we had 1 C, 0 F's, and B's, and we had 4 honors points. So that'll get us a 3.67. So when we wrote down what was their GPA with the high school, it's somewhere in between these two again. Normally that's how it lands. However, I have had students have higher UC CSU eligibility. I've also had them have lower than their, or right at their non-weighted GPA. It's not normally any lower than the non-weighted GPA. But yeah, so we ended up with a CSU UC GPA of 3.67, and we can see here that we were at thinking we had a 3.81, but not for CSU and UC. Okay, so that was actually everything I wanted to go over. So we do have some seniors that if they do need help with this, we have some labs available. So if you have a senior, please remind them. Today we have a lab where they can drop in with counselors if they're interested in making this calculation and they haven't done so yet. It's something we talked about with all of our seniors in their individual meetings and encouraged them to do. But if they need a little extra encouragement, please let them know to come and see us during our workshop time later today. So we can start taking any questions that went unanswered. And I can do them in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to and ask your question. It looks like this buyer's answered most, if not all of these. So let me know if you want to add your question in again because you did get it answered. Please do so now and I can answer it live. Otherwise, this recording or this presentation is recorded, so we will put it up on our blog website for everybody to access, and we can do that. Okay, so does AP course have a grade A as 5 points? So when we're talking about weighted and unweighted classes, a weighted class is on a 5.0 scale in your GPA. In the case of this calculation, the honors points aren't associated with the grade itself, right? It's a total number of honors courses that you took that you're going to be calculating, like we did in the actual breakdown of the number of honors points. So sometimes I know students want to associate the grade they earned in the class. So let's say they got a B and they want to think of it as an A because it was an honors or an AP course. That's not really how it works out in the GPA for this calculation, but it is weighted on a 5.0 scale versus a regular course that's weighted on a 4.0 scale. And let's see, any honors courses taken from 10th grade are counted towards CSU UC GPA. So not everything. There were a couple of exceptions that we wrote into the presentation here. If a student did take, for example, what would most commonly happen, Math 2 honors or online Math 2 honors, they could have taken that in 10th grade, and in that case, that course would not count. They also have a maximum of 4 points that they can bring with them. So if they did anything like what this student did, where they took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 honors or AP courses in their 10th grade, that's 10 total points, and they can't take 10 points with them from 10th grade. They can only take a maximum of 4 points. That's 2 AP or honors year-long courses in the 10th grade. And let's see, are none of the courses in 9th grade considered for the GPA? Correct, they're not considered for the GPA. They are considered when a student reports their grades to colleges. They do report their 9th grade coursework, and it's important. You need the courses that you take in 9th grade to meet requirements. However, it's not counted in this GPA calculation. And if a student takes classes outside in a community college, do they include that in the GPA? Yes, they do. We looked at a slide on that as well. We do have a lot of students that take community college classes. So slide 5 would explain how to do that. When they take a community college class, it's weighted. It's also counted twice. So because it's a year-long course when they take it at the community college. So if they got a B in a US history class that's on their transcript, they will count that 2 times in that 2 towards the B's. They also count it as 2 towards the honors points. And let's see, what changes or updates are there due to the pandemic? So right now, I can anticipate if there still is continued issues with access to the SAT or the ACT, that the CSU's eligibility will stay similar to what they're using now. That would be a possible change. Then the other change is that the credit and no credit marks from the spring would not be computed towards the CSU or UC GPA, which we looked at over here as well. So those are really the only pandemic impacts that we are aware of that would change anything with this GPA. And let's see, we are not in early college courses. How can we balance it or increase the GPA? Well, if your student depends on the grade of your student. If they aren't capitalizing on those 8 total points and maybe they're a sophomore and they could take the remaining courses that they have in 11th grade to get to that 8-point mark. That would be a way of increasing, but you're not gonna be able to go over that anyway. Or, you could consider taking, you don't have to be in a course right now, but you could consider taking something at the community college in the summer to count towards this GPA. If your student is even an 11th grader, they have that summer right after 11th grade is the last time they can take something to count towards this GPA. And let's see, what if the student has already taken honors in 10th and 11th and reached 8 points? What would you still? No, you do not go over 8 points. So this question is, student has already taken honors in 10th and 11th and reached the 8 semesters max. Do you still count community college courses? Not towards the honors points. You still count the courses, you still count them twice in your totals when you're counting up the A's and B's, but you're not going to be able to include those honors points because you've already reached the maximum. If Spanish is taken at the community college in freshman year, will the grade be counted towards this GPA? No. If you took it in the summer after 9th grade, that's the beginning of this GPA calculation, it would count. But if you took it in the fall or in the spring, it's before this GPA starts counting courses. It doesn't matter the kind of class that you take. If you take it in 9th grade, it won't count. Community college courses will have a GPA of 4 or 5 points. Will it impact the overall GPA? Community college courses are weighted, so they're on the 5-point scale. And yes, it would impact your overall GPA because it would be a weighted course and included if it's articulated onto your high school transcript. So for us at the high school, we do have articulation guidelines and rules. Not everything a student takes at a community college does get added to their high school transcript, but if they meet the guidelines and are able to have their course articulated, then yes, it would impact their GPA. And if a student has 4 honors in the fall, 4 honors in the spring is the option for the student to pick any 4 honors for the calculation. Again, the honors isn't attached to a grade. It's just a total number of honors. So it doesn't matter which ones they pick because it's not attached to a grade. And you have a list of new courses added recently in Mountain House High School course list. We missed yesterday's meeting from the district. I don't know about yesterday's meeting from the district about courses added, but we do keep a list of our courses that we are offering this year on our website. So under counseling home. And if you go to course selection, you can find all of our information, including a course list here. I was talking about this earlier, so it's good that we could take a quick look at it. This is everything that we're offering this school year. We do update it when we have new courses for the next school year. We'll have a new list for 2021, 2022. But this is everything. So I did mention that there's a indicator here for what's college prep and also what's college prep but not honors at the UC CSU level. We already knew about this one, the English 9. We know about this one. And there's a couple more in here. So we do highlight it when they are not honors at the UC level on this course list for you. And just so you guys know, since I have it up here as well, when we do have this presentation ready, it'll be on our counseling blog, which is linked to on our website, and we'll put it under Coffee with the Counselor up here. So everything that we've done in the past is also here as well. And then we'll put up a new one from this presentation so that you can see the recording. Okay. And let's see. How do we know which community college courses have a 5.0 GPA? Everything that a student takes at the community college is weighted at a 5.0 scale, everything. However, not everything goes onto the high school transcript. So if you want more information about that, you can go onto our onto our community college course page to find out what would be articulated for a student. There's an outline here on what we will allow a student to take at what times in high school. A student does need to complete requirements the fall prior to the required year of that course. So you can read more on that here, what we would do. The other thing you can do is if you're ready to have your student sign up for a community college class, we require that you do what's called the non-MHHS course planning form. That tells us that you have this plan to take a class, and then we review your plan and we send you an email after and say, yes, this course will go onto your high school transcript, or no, this course won't go onto your high school transcript. So you should know that information before you sign up for anything at a community college, and that's how you would do it and how you communicate it to us. Okay, so district presented yesterday additional courses that would be added. Will the recording be available? I'm not sure about the district's presentation about courses. And is there a good to take community college courses which have 5 instead of 4 points? Again, everything that a student takes is a 5-point scale if they take it at the community college, all courses. Okay, I don't know if we got to the end yet, but it looks like we may have. Great, well, thank you guys all for joining us today. I think that's gonna do it. And then feel free to watch the recording when you have time if you joined us a little bit late, okay? Thanks so much. Oh, BYU. This question is about BYU. So BYU courses are high school level courses. You can take AP versions or honors versions of courses at BYU. So if you did that and it said that it's the AP version of the course, then it would be a 5.0 scale. But if you take a class that's a high school level course, like for example, Spanish 1, then Spanish 1 is a regular course. It's on a 4.0 scale because it's a high school level at BYU. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys. Bye.